off and running and back with you guys to start off a new week. It's the 17th of March. Welcome inside the vault. It's a Monday as well. Happy St. Patrick's Day to those of you who celebrate. Clearly, my co-host does, and clearly my heritage means nothing to me right now. Now, I am wearing a dark green shaded pant day here in Orlando. It's a nice mid-60s. I know you guys don't want to hear me complain about that whatsoever. This is 2+ weeks running into my annual working vacation, but that's beside the point. We're glad you're here. It is a Monday, and we do have plenty to get to here inside the vault. I'm Bobby Trossett, as always, joined alongside Sarah Ellison, and there were some surprising roster moves made over the weekend. I think we should probably just start by shouting out Rave Kingdom. This might be his episode.
Seriously.
We should honestly probably brand this episode the vault
Brought to
rave
you by Rave Kingdom. Yes.
Literally. He's not even a patron, but he might have to be right now. I mean, this is brought to you by Rave Kingdom with his Ben Cleveland news, if you haven't already figured it out. All right, so we will address that. We will address backup quarterback. We will address the Mark Andrews discussion. Lots of AFC North news. Some maybe under-the-radar comments made by DeAndre Hopkins last week that's getting some run on social media that we didn't necessarily cover on Friday, and a lot more. So great to see you. Happy Paddy's Day.
The irony here is that you're Irish. I'm Scottish. I mean, it's close. It's close. I think I got a little English in there too, a few other things, but I'm predominantly Scottish here. So this is your holiday. But here's the thing. It's because I have kids, and my kids are like, Mom, I can't go to school or I'll get pinched. And so we're ready for this. We're ready. We've got green in our arsenal. And before I could even get dressed this morning, I was still in my pajamas. My daughter came down and pinched me. So that's why we're ready around here. We are ready. But what I wasn't ready for over the weekend was this Ben Cleveland news. So I know we weren't the only ones, Bobby, because I saw all the different beat writers being like, I'm shocked. So here we are on St. Paddy's Day, 12 o'clock, talking about Ben Cleveland returning to the Ravens. And I don't know where Rave Kingdom is. I don't know where he is now. Bobby, I was shocked, mostly from Ben Cleveland and John Harbaugh's side, but from Eric DeCosta's side and roster building, it makes total sense, right? So the Ravens had 4 unrestricted free agents along the offensive line heading into free agency. They lost 2, and now they've kept 2. And so you've lost Patrick McCary, who was your super sub until last year when he became the full-time left guard. But prior to that, he was your super sub who could go anywhere. And they also lost Josh Jones. And so you're probably going to bring some guys to the draft for sure. But why not have some veteran depth there? And as Ken McCusick pointed out, Cleveland's played in a lot of places. He's played at left guard and right guard, of course. He's played at center, and he's also played at right tackle. So from Eric DeCosta's point of view, it's like, sure, why not? We can get him for cheap. And let's do this thing. We know who he is. And Bobby, this time last year, we were saying he should be the starter. For most of the first month of the year, we were saying put him in as the starter instead of Daniel Fa'alele. So from a talent perspective, this is great. I just thought, given the doghouse that he was in with John Harbaugh, that I thought he would want to go out and try to get a fresh start elsewhere. And I also thought Harbaugh would be okay with it, since he kind of, talked about how he wasn't a starter and he's been in that doghouse. So I'm surprised from Ben's point of view, but from a roster building perspective, this is a great move.
I'm shocked.
Yeah.
was just totally shocked and had to gather my thoughts on it because, as we both know, we had to cover this. He's just weeks removed from his DUI. Right. What followed was filing for divorce. And you've already mentioned, as we covered extensively last year, this doghouse. And so what was really interesting about the doghouse was that when Harbaugh came out hard, right, he criticized Ben hard through the media. And then it was what, maybe just a couple weeks that followed that when he had an opportunity to build him up, kind of unprompted, or maybe was asked a follow-up question on Ben and where he was in the race. He built him up like almost insurmountably, like out of nowhere, and was sure to kind of make it clear that he likes Ben and that he was using that at every opportunity to give Ben a little bit of love through his media availability. And so color me confused, color me shocked. I'm totally with you when it comes to the depth. But man, clearly Ben has a lot going on in his personal life. You wonder how that factors in to his immediate future here in Baltimore. But hey, I guess to your point, from a football perspective, you got another guy in the building. Having lost a couple to free agency, you're going to bring more in through the draft and maybe the latter half of free agency. But if nothing else, he's going to go in there and compete. And Rave Kingdom.
He just chimed in. Here we go. Bring it in.
Ben. No, he was in there before we even started the show. But Rave Kingdom hits us with our first super chat. We do have a couple channel members too. One was gifted out, which we'll get to in a second. But Rave chimes in on the Ben Cleveland discussion, and he says, I'm the king. I'm the king, Ben Cleveland. I was right. I was told they cared about winning, but I said they wanted him on a cheap deal. They destroyed his name, said he was out of shape and didn't care. I was right all along. Best 5 my arse from Rave on this Monday.
He gets to stand on business today. And look at him. He gives us an orange super chat. He was right. I thought, Bobby, he was good as gone. We told Rave Kingdom, you better find a new shtick to have in the chat. Boy, did he not need to do that. And you know what?
This Rave, he was out of shape. He didn't pass his conditioning test several summers ago. Okay.
He didn't pass his conditioning test. Harbaugh alluded to the fact that, perhaps he's not practicing too hard. He was like, Ben knows what he needs to do to become a starter. So, I mean, what I want to know is how Harbaugh feels about this signing. That's what I want to know. I also want to know Ben's point of view, because I thought Ben would want to try to move on. Like, these are the press conferences I need in my life. I need to know where these two guys are at. But I get the feeling that Ben's just such a chill, laid-back guy. Sometimes chill people, it might be too much to their detriment, right? Like, people want to see you work harder in the NFL or whatever. Maybe that's what's going on. But maybe he's so chill that he's just like, yeah, I'm cool. I'm cool to come back. Like,
Ben's a country boy.
I got no issue with Harbs.
Right? Big country was attached to him nickname-wise for a reason. He's a Georgia boy who enjoys hunting, who enjoys fishing, and who enjoys staying out of the limelight. Yeah. Seeking weighing in as well says Big Cleve just needs to go on a solo expedition in the woods to hunt squirrels with his bare hands and to fight bears with those same hands, referring to what Ben's all about in his free time. And we also have a couple new members too. Bob Ballard just became a new channel member to start off the show, and Hybrid Theory 5 gifted a membership, which means, again, as we learned in recent weeks, one of you is randomly receiving out of the generosity of Hybrid's heart a channel membership here inside the vault. So thank you both, Bob and Hybrid, for kicking things off. And make sure wherever you are out there who just received a channel membership, let us know who you are. Do you have anything else to say on the Cleveland side before we shift gears to the second signing that came in, which was this? Lamar Jackson's 2025 backup and maybe 2026, according to this deal and the figures put forth by Jeff Zarebek, is none other than Cooper Rush. And Cooper Rush, Sarah, if you follow football out there outside of the Baltimore side of things, you know this guy because he has quite a few experience and starts in particular under his belt in Dallas. So he's now Lamar's backup. It's a 2-year deal for $6.2 million. It could be worth up to 12.2, and all of you hope that he doesn't earn that, because that would be a problem if he earns those. That means playing time would be very much a thing. 4.2 million of which is guaranteed of that 6.2. Sarah, your reaction over the weekend was what?
My reaction is that it was a good signing. I wasn't surprised by it. We went through a list of quarterbacks on Friday. We very briefly named Cooper Rush as a possibility. What I was more surprised by was Ravens Twitter community being so upset by it. And Bobby, I think it might have had something to do with the fact that the way it's originally reported by, the national media, they're getting the information from the agents, and the agents want to make it look like they got a ton of money for their clients. That's how they continue to get more clients. And so it was reported that he would it would be a 2-year deal for $12.2 million. So that would have been $6.1 million per year, which would have been more than what DeAndre Hopkins is making, right? And a few other guys on this roster. But Jeff Zrebiec comes in with more details. And really, it's a 2-year deal for $6.2 million, so half of what it was originally thought of. So he's only making $3.1 million per year. Bobby, there are 42 quarterbacks who are making more than $3.1 million per year. This is not an expensive signing, although I think it was billed as such at first. He's only getting $4.2 million guaranteed over the 2 years. And so that's a super cheap deal. I mean, it's not a rookie quarterback deal that you get in the 6th round, but the Ravens felt like they needed more than that. They have Devin Leary. He's not ready to be the backup. They wouldn't go out and here's what's crazy about it. He's an experienced backup, Bobby. Let's take a look at his numbers. Oh, sorry. One more thing about the money before we move on to his experience. Other people also thought, well, you just canceled out one of your comp picks with this signing because it looked like it was a $12.2 million deal. But after the information came in, Nick Cordy at Over the Cap said that the $3.1 million APY should be right at that perfect place where Cooper Rush will not qualify as a compensatory free agent unless he has to play most of the season, which is what you were indicating just a few minutes ago. So you get an experienced guy on the cheap. You won't negate a compensatory pick. And so I don't see why listen, it's not like I think he's going to save the Ravens, or he's not like this all-pro quarterback. You're not getting that at a backup. So the angst over this signing was kind of funny to me. I'm not going to go the other direction and say, oh, this is the best backup ever. But knowing that you're not going to get a backup that has starter potential or starter desires, you're not going to get that here because Lamar Jackson's your starter. The next best thing in getting an experienced guy is Cooper Kupp, and you got him on a very modest deal.
Oh, now you're teasing with the audience. You just said Cooper Kupp. Don't do that.
I did it again.
Don't do that to them.
There's too many Coopers out here. What was the other Cooper?
Listen, too soon.
Just these two?
That was too soon.
We're going to get to Cooper Kupp soon, by the way.
You know where I think the angst comes from?
Where does it come from?
And I might be splitting hairs here, but I think when Snoop was in Baltimore, there was this belief that it was a luxury that stylistically you didn't have to change much of the offense if he were to be inserted in. Right. So I think part of the fan base is
but he's not even a Lamar, though. That's the thing.
Yeah,
I hear what you're saying.
Precisely. I'm just trying to put myself in some of these fans' shoes.
Sure.
Clearly, the more experienced option, you're going to take Cooper Rush every day of the week over a Snoop, probably over a Trey Lance. We don't know what Trey Lance is at this point. He hasn't gotten a lot of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
We also don't know where Carson Wentz is at this point in his career. He may still have starter aspirations, even though I think that would be a little far-fetched at this point.
Because he backed up Mahomes last year, right?
He did. He did in Kansas City. So where I'm going with this, though, is they tried that.
Mm-hmm.
They tried that schematically, that it would be a seamless type of transition. And guess what? They unfortunately found out in a pretty decent sample size that it wasn't a seamless transition and that Snoop was below average. Cooper, as we're about to learn here, is actually an above average backup. He's proven that.
Yeah. Let me speak to your point that you just brought up. I think you're right. Number one, I think there's angst because A, they thought it was more expensive than it was. B, the style. And C, they just keep wanting to hear Jair Alexander or, a pass rusher or whatever, which is all fair because they still do need to get corners and pass rushers, right? And so anytime there's a signing that's not that, then it's like, what are we doing? Number one. And number two, to your point, let's address the style. stylistically that he doesn't match with Lamar. He does not. I let go of that when they drafted Devin Leary last year. I was like, oh, they're not even trying anymore to get somebody that's even in near the wheelhouse. Because if we're being honest, Tyler Huntley is not stylistically Lamar Jackson.
No,
Nobody is.
Nor was Trace McSorley. But you saw them
Trace
take
McSorley
swings.
could run a bit. Trace ran. But Tyler Huntley wasn't known as like a big runner.
He became one in Baltimore, though. That's all he really did.
Really?
But think about it, though. Like, I look at Snoop and Trace very similarly, though, Sarah, in the sense that they were trying to, okay, you can't emulate, you can't simulate. We all know that. Yeah. But they were trying, it seemed, from the outside looking in, to make that somewhat of a theme in what they were looking for as backup. And to your point, when they went with Devin Leary on day 3 last year, and now that they've signed, Emory Jones was a little bit of both. But now that they've said that he was their undrafted rookie, as we all remember last summer, and now that they go with Cooper, it is this sign that perhaps that they're going in a different direction with how they view backup.
Yes, but I think that sign came with the Devin Leary draft pick is what I'm saying. And I also think one of the reasons why they're okay with it is not just that nobody's Lamar, because they're not. The best person, like the best backup would have been like a Justin Fields, because he can run, right? Like Justin Fields is a guy that he's still not Lamar, but at least is closer in that wheelhouse. But he's not coming to Baltimore because he still wants a shot at starting, and that's what he's doing with the Jets. So what I think the real transition is it's less about Lamar and more about your offensive coordinator and everybody surrounding the quarterback. Because under Greg Roman, who did not put together a sophisticated NFL pro-ready passing game, Todd Monken can adjust. And on top of it, they have other roster moves that also surround any quarterback. You could plug in any quarterback and be like, okay, you've got Todd Monken, who knows how to call a more traditional drop back kind of game. Then you've got Derrick Henry as your running back next to you, who Tannehill had for, like any quarterback would love Henry. There was actually more of a question, could Henry adjust to Lamar's way of playing rather than with the traditional drop back player? Then you can do 11 personnel because now you've got Flowers and Bateman and DeAndre Hopkins. And then what quarterback doesn't love 2 huge tight ends? And so to me, they're moving away from trying to find somebody in the Lamar wheelhouse ever since they moved on from Greg Roman and came over to Todd Monken, who already can be, the Ravens can already be very multiple with Lamar. So, I mean, we talked about this. We called it like a fresh legs offense, that you can keep coming in with fresh legs and different looks with different personnel. And so because you have that surrounding roster that could work well with either type of quarterback, because you have an offensive coordinator who can coordinate a game around either quarterback stylistically, then you say to yourself, okay, let's get a backup quarterback that could win at least half your games if Lamar is out for only a chunk of the season. Okay. Whoever you bring in, if Lamar gets a season ender, it's over. Okay. Now, some people are like, well, then I don't want a good backup quarterback because I want to go for a high draft pick. If Lamar's done, but the more likely scenario is more of what we've seen in like 2022, where it's like he goes out for, 5-6 games, but could he be back for a playoff run? Cooper Kupp is your answer for somebody that could win you at least half your games. If Lamar's down a little bit, as we can see, he's 9-5 as a starter. I keep calling him Cooper Kupp. Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush. Hey,
biting my tongue
every time I say Cooper Kupp.
just biting my tongue. Yeah, it's Patty's Day.
And
nobody do that.
You need to do like a little sign every time I do it. Just be like, count how many times I do it so I can watch.
You literally just opened the floodgates. It's St. Patty's Day, midday. Take a drink for every time she says Cooper Kupp over Rush. It's 12:30. Don't do that, folks. Wait later.
Hey, you could drink. Hey, who said it had to be alcohol? We can drink water over here.
Patty's Day.
Cooper Rush is 9-5 as a starter. And then last year when he had to come in where Dak did have a season ender, Cooper Rush was 4-4 as a starter. So just call him Rush, they say. I got it. Let's call him Rush. This is a good backup signing in my view.
How can we sit here and say otherwise? Right? And you know what's funny is, doesn't this kind of make you feel like, wasn't there some smoke about Tannehill around a year ago? I thought I remember reading something from Zaribek.
Or at least I was pushing for Tannehill.
Oh, I know.
And I remember you asking, but he's not the same style. And I said, yeah, but I let go of that because of Devin Leary. That's clearly not what they're doing anymore.
And once you did, and now that Cooper has come to fruition, the Tannehill smoke from a year ago makes a lot of sense. And now this new trend has clearly formed in the Todd Monken era. So,
okay, Bobby, one other thing I want to say. Tyler Huntley, when you said, well, that's all he did. When Tyler Huntley came in to back up Lamar Jackson in 21 and 22, those are
uh-oh. Man, she was ready to hit me with some Tyler Huntley statistics, and then she dropped off. Happy St. Patty's Day. Appreciate you guys for being here. I'm sure Sarah will be back momentarily, but yeah, I don't know what was up with that. But reality is, how can you sit here and criticize the Cooper Rush discussion? It's an immediate upgrade over Josh Johnson. As you see on the screen, he's someone that has been serviceable. And obviously, during his time in Dallas, he got a lot of opportunities because of Dak Prescott's unavailability. So that is that. Those are your two signings from over the weekend. Elsewhere, along the lines of Mark Andrews and his imminent future with the team, we all know that he and every other tight end that's going to be in Baltimore for 2025 is under contract, yes, for this upcoming season, but it is a contract year, meaning Ricard as a fullback, Andrews, Kohler, and Likely all not under contract as of right now beyond 2025. And as Jeff noted over the weekend, Mark's $4 million roster bonus triggered on the 5th day of the new league year. We were expecting this, not exactly a surprise. That was technically between 4 p.m. Saturday and 4 p.m. today at the time of this tweet of Jeff's. So the Ravens picked it up. That's not surprising. They were never going to release Andrews, as Jeff notes, and as we've discussed. Could they trade him? Perhaps that's still potentially on the table, but it would take a legit offer. Sarah, we were anticipating this, and that roster bonus has officially been triggered.
Yes. So he got that $4 million. I don't know what you did you read this whole tweet right here?
I did.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, to Jeff's point, they were obviously never going to release him. You don't just release him out of nowhere. And then he says, could they trade him? So he's leaving that door open, even though the deadline has passed. He said, could they trade him? Perhaps, but it would take a legit offer. So that was a deadline, right, from over the weekend that would have helped trigger things, but it didn't. But I don't think the trade speculation is going to completely end, Bobby, because as he said there, like they could, but it'll take a legit offer. And so Jeff was asked, like, what would be a legit offer? Like, what would it take? And he said a legit offer would have to be a day 2 pick. He says it can't be a day 3. And that makes sense, right? Like, because if he were to walk at the end of this next season into free agency and he signs, there's a good chance that he would become a 4th round comp pick, right? Because his career's far from over. He's doesn't seem to be slowing down. We just saw that he led all tight ends in touchdowns last year. He had a ton of production. The issue with him last year is obviously in the big moments. And so, why would you give him up for a 4th when you could keep him and then get a 4th comp pick once he walks out the door? So that makes a lot of sense to me with what's going on there. So here's the thing, Bobby, we're as Jeff did there, he still could be traded. That was a deadline to kind of get it moving. In a trade, you could still talk about who's paying for what in terms of roster bonuses. The cap hit is what it is. That roster bonus doesn't change the cap hit. It is what it is. And so what I think a hard deadline would be close, more like the draft. And as Jeff said last week, the Ravens kept those things under wraps until draft day. The last times they had trades, like with Hayden Hurst and Hollywood Brown. And so until Eric DeCosta says, you know what? No, Mark is our guy, which he didn't do the last time he was at podium, or until the draft is over, I think the trade speculation will probably still be out there.
Sure. Fair enough. Before we get to Super Chats and our DeAndre Hopkins discussion and our second topic, right when you dropped off, you were going to make a point about Snoop.
Yeah. Oh, I was just saying, like, he's, again, to the point that he's not like, a runner first. Like, so in 2021, when he filled in for Lamar, when he went down, he had 188 passing attempts, 47 rushing attempts, which is nothing to sneeze at. And then in 23, he had 112 passing attempts and then 43 rushing attempts. So
now to be clear, the passing attack was dink and dunk. And what I meant by that was the most positive yardage that I remember from watching Snoop was when he was using his legs. And that was my point. So let's get to some Super Chats. We appreciate you guys for being here on this St. Patty's Day, the 17th of March. Olu hits us with a request of his. Milrow me, please, for QB3. Project quarterback, draft him in the 7th round. Jalen Milrow. Don't think he'll be there by the 7th round. I don't know where he's comping out, Jalen Milrow, but I don't think he's going to be available come day 3 in the 7th round. Could be wrong. C King
says RPOs are going to just be pass options with rush.
Let's see.
Okay. So he didn't say saith the king.
Yeah, what's up with that?
Yeah, we need that always ended with saith the king or saith the sea king.
Let's see. Liv B. Amari was the third Cooper.
That was the other
vault.
one. Amari Cooper, Cooper Kupp, and Cooper Rush. Too much for me to process, clearly.
Liv is keeping you tallied up with your Coopers and your Rushes and your Cups. Rave Kingdom.
He says, now I'm broke, but Ben Cleveland, baby, he's still going.
Amazing. Rave, we appreciate you. Happy holiday.
Cooper DeJean. Cooper DeJean was another one.
DeJean. Let's see. This is your day, Rave, by the way. This is your day. Ben is back.
We said the show was brought to you by Rave Kingdom.
That's right. Richard Asmodeus checking in. We ended up getting the better quarterback from Dallas.
What's funny is if you read the comments from either Adam Schefter or Ian Rappaport, both breaking the news at similar times, like Dallas fans were kind of saying that too. They're like, what? You gave away our better quarterback?
I bet they probably think they've seen more of him recently than they've seen their actual starter. So maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Another one from Rave. And this is for you.
He is going to go broke. He says, B and S, Bobby and Sarah, throw your chips in. Bet all money. Found out Ben divorced because she plays video games with oh, geez.
Some allegations here.
He's talking about some cheating going on there.
Okay.
He says, Ben is mad and I am too.
Interesting. Rave, let us know. Well, I'm not going to ask you to reveal your source.
No, because that's what it was. That's what when TMZ reported it. That's what it was. It was like he filed for divorce because, and the when they asked for the reason, he said adultery.
Right, but
yeah,
via video game?
No, I didn't read the rest of it because.
Oh yeah. Okay, all right. Let's keep it moving, Rave. He's got more coming up here in a second, though. Liv B says we can also nickname him C Rush.
Oh, or Crush.
Or Crush.
Yeah, Crush.
Like it Liv.
Like he's gonna crush it.
Rave is back, emptying out his piggy bank. For you.
Oh, it's for me. He says, okay, now I'm broke. No more money. Patreon?
Rave, we appreciate you. C King is back. These two are keeping us afloat in the offseason, apparently.
The credit card. Is this all on going on the credit card? Rave Kingdom, is that what this is doing?
You guys are incredible and making sure So Saith I, C King is posted with an apologies to you for calling him out, and another one.
Oh my gosh, see, King Ben is going to be blocking people into the stands, picturing the dude his wife cheated on him with. Barbarian Ben and his rage are going to win at the line.
Unreal. Robbie says, hope they trade Mark. Likely needs to be TE1, aka Tight End 1. We appreciate you guys for being here today. Channel memberships are now a thing. If you want to get more involved, sign up for one. You can click on the link that we have included in the show notes. We have over 60 members. We just rolled it out 2 weeks ago, so it's a great way to give back to the channel. It's also a great way to cash in on some channel perks that we have available to you, some incentives. So thank you guys for being here. And let's get to Sarah, DeAndre Hopkins. Perhaps this was covered Friday, but not from the angle that you ended up kind of coming across on social media from some folks that were having this dialogue.
Yeah, I didn't catch it. I don't know if you did.
Maybe very vaguely.
Yeah, like when we're just cruising to put the show together, so it kind of went over my head, but it became a talking point again among Ravens Twitter, the Ravens Twitter community. And this member, like there's like a flock, literally a flock community you can join on Twitter. And this member says, did y'all peep D-Hop saying our wide receivers need to take accountability for most of Lamar's picks? And oh shoot, when I got kicked out, I don't know what happened. When I got kicked out of StreamYard, I lost the video. So let me bring this back in. I was like, I don't know that I did catch it. And so they went back and grabbed the video, and here he is saying it.
YouTube highlights of this offense, kind of get familiar with it. You know, he makes some incredible throws, and some of the interceptions, you know, as a receiver, you know, you got to take responsibility yourself. So Lamar is, man, he knows how to thread the needle. So I think for myself, that was definitely a big part of the decision.
Okay, so he did indeed say, you know, he was explaining how he's watching YouTube highlights, which I remember catching that part, and I remember him saying how Lamar knows how to thread a needle. But I didn't catch him saying the wide receivers, or I don't think he said wide. He said receivers need to take accountability. And we've been through this, Bobby. There were 4 total interceptions, and one could argue that none of them were his fault. So here's a screen grab of 3 of the 4. And when the ball hits the wide receiver in both their hands, any wide receiver is going to tell you, I got to catch it. Now, does it mean it's like the easiest catch in the world? No. But it's in your hands, number one. Number two, after it's in your hands, for it to end up as a pick, it's certainly not on Lamar's, right? So the first one on the left is Rashad Bateman. He's about to have both hands on the ball. Second one, he is stretching out a little bit, but Mark Andrews, both hands on the ball. This one might be the craziest. Justice Hill against the Steelers, it was just one of those breadbasket throws. He's got it. And the Steeler just wrestled away from him. On this final one, it didn't hit Rashad Bateman in the hands, but he definitely stopped on the route. This is the one against the Steelers. And Lamar was already ready, letting that ball go before he slowed down on the route. And so there clearly was a miscommunication there. And so, Bobby, us pointing this out, we've already talked about all 4 of these. In fact, remember, Peter Schrager did a whole segment citing us in the vault and how we kind of brought this to his attention.
You and your inspo. You gave him inspo. Your tweet gave him inspo. Thank you. But you gave him inspo, and he said as much.
Yeah. Well, anyway, but point being, this has already been covered, but this is what you're bringing into the locker room. When you sign a DeAndre Hopkins, this is his 12th or 13th year, something like that, and he can go into that locker room, and it doesn't have to be Lamar because it's tough when you're the quarterback sometimes saying it. You can say it, and I'm sure Lamar has, but in a quarterback, you're like trying to some people could say, oh, you're just trying to wipe your hands on it. No, now you've got a receiver that says, here's how you can look at it from a veteran receiver's point of view. You can't stop running the route, or you got to hold on the ball. Once it's there, here's what you got to do. And this is the accountability that he's going to bring to the locker room. And I think that they'll only be better for it.
Listen to it once more, too, because it's like when we say the words called out or calls out, sometimes that can come across as like harsh. But He's not that at all in this clip. Listen to this once more.
YouTube highlights of this offense, kind of get familiar with it. You know, he makes some incredible throws, and some of the interceptions, you know, as a receiver, you know, you got to take responsibility yourself. So Lamar is, man, he knows how to thread the needle. So
You know what it is? It's not harsh. It's professional.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to give a dose of, he's going to bring a dose of that to the wide receivers room. And that's refreshing for a young and inexperienced group, relatively speaking, to what he's bringing in, to your point, over a decade of service time in the league and the most active receiving yards of any pass catcher. So I think that's, we had so much of a discussion last week in terms of how we view the contract now that the figures are out. And so much of that is based on production, based on how he fits. But what about the impact in the room? And I think this is a great example of one of, I'm sure, many still to come that we'll be discussing over the next year when he's in Baltimore.
What's funny, here's another one that Lamar did in a funny way call out one of his receivers, but it was Charlie Kolar. I don't know if you guys noticed this thread last week. I'm sure a lot of you did. Somebody had just tweeted, like, show me a play by Lamar Jackson that isn't talked about enough. And he showed this one where he, like, just so smoothly evades a Chargers rusher. And like he's just like toying with them. It's just so easy. And then he hit Charlie Kolar for, I believe it went for a first down. And so Charlie responds, so Lamar, quote, retweets it. And Charlie responds to it and says, great job by the tight end there, making you right, fam. So Lamar is like, wait a minute. He's like, you wouldn't have had to make it right if you kept running. Chuck up, Charlie. And so, like, we can't show the play, but Charlie did stop running. And then so, like, last minute, he kind of had to dive for the ball because Lamar's releasing it. He's got to anticipate these guys, right? He's got to anticipate where they are. You can't throw it where they are. You got to throw it to where they're going to be. And so it's all these guys. It's Justice Hill. It's Bateman. It's Charlie Kolar. That one had Mark Andrews. It's like, you got to take accountability. In the case of this one, Charlie did end up making the play, but it could have been bad.
He calls him Chuck Up Charlie. These two are hilarious because...
Oh, so he's calling him not like Chuck Up, Charlie. He's calling him Chuck Up Charlie.
Oh, I think so. Meaning like, okay. Hey, go get it, big fella.
Yeah.
Go get it, 88. Yeah. But this is such a great... This like encapsulates Lamar's humor and how much of a goofball Charlie is, and clearly like the rapport that they have internally. This is a great little snapshot here.
Absolutely.
Love
Absolutely. It. And by the way, just so that, you know, this isn't a dunking on Bateman or like DeAndre calling out those guys or whatever. Like, it is still funny to me. We talked last week about how people are overlooking Isaiah Likely, right? When DeAndre Hopkins was signed, all these national websites and social media accounts are putting out, you know, the top weapons in Baltimore, and they put DeAndre Hopkins in there, put Mark Andrews in, and they knock off Isaiah Likely. Well, in this one, FanDuel says one wide receiver duo has to go. So like, which one does it have to be? Meaning, like, rank these guys, which one's the worst? And what's funny, they put all these duos together, but for Baltimore, they put Flowers and Hopkins instead of Flowers and Bateman. And I just don't think national media are catching on yet. Hopkins is number 3.
This is ridiculous.
And so just as they're overlooking Likely, it feels like people are overlooking Bateman. And a year ago, you could understand that. But after last year, with his resurgence and all those touchdowns, let's not get it twisted. It's Bateman that's number 2.
Yeah. And he would make where they're standing among these 4, right, or the other 3, he would make them a stronger pair. I still have them sitting at 4th, who we're looking at right now with this exercise, but he would make them stronger and probably closer to Evans and Godwin. I'm going Nakua, Adams, Metcalf, Pickens, Evans, Godwin, and then the boys in Baltimore, which, again, these are some of the most elite pairs.
Yeah.
And why didn't they put Higgins in? We'll get to the Cincy in just a bit, but why didn't they have Higgins and Chase in here?
Probably because they didn't know if they were going to stick together.
Yeah.
But yeah, you would take Flowers and Hopkins out, put in those 2, and then you have a more difficult conversation.
Yeah. Right. For 3.
Yes.
For number 3.
Right.
So.
Right. Now, Bobby, now I actually do get to talk about Cooper Kupp. So hopefully I don't put in somebody else's name here, but I'm bringing this up just so we can kind of compare these 2 deals. So Cooper Kupp was signed since the last time we had a show last Friday. And he got a 3-year deal worth $45 million. So that's a lot of money per year. And as Ravens Twitter once again pointed out, it's kind of crazy once again, the deal that the Ravens are getting. Now, again, I think Cooper Kupp is worth more given his age. But the last three seasons, and wait a minute. I said given their age, but
Yeah.
they're the same age.
Yeah.
They're the
These guys have
same
been
age.
around for a while, man. Wow.
Yeah. So Cooper Kupp over the last 3 years has 2,259 yards. Hopkins has 2,384 yards. So Hopkins over the last 3 years with more yards.
Both
Kupp,
have missed time.
Both has missed time. I can tell you, let me tell you the difference in their games. This does help D-Hop, but being available is important. D-Hop over the last 3 years played 10 more games than Cooper.
I was going to say
Kupp.
Cooper's had almost full seasons wiped.
Yeah. So Cooper has played in 32 games, whereas D-Hop has played in 42. But that matters. Like, it matters whether they're available.
Yeah.
So makes sense that D-Hop has more yards over the 3 years. Kupp does have more touchdowns, just 2 more, 17 to 15. But here we go. Yards per target. Kupp is 7.7. D-Hop is 6.6. But the difference is one got a 3-year, $45 million a deal, and the other got 1 year, $5 million. So you're feeling pretty good by the day. We already knew that this was a good deal. But is Cooper Kupp really worth $10 million more per year? No.
But to a Seattle team that just lost DK or that just gave DK up, probably.
They needed him, but could they have signed DeAndre Hopkins to that group? I don't know. But here's the thing: is again, D-Hop will get less yards this year because he's not going to be passed to as much as Cooper Kupp will, right? So we'll have to look at that yards per target.
Yeah.
And overall touch.
Because Kupp's, by the way, Kupp's going to go to it. Kupp is now joining a team that's essentially going to ask him to be a number 2. Because Jackson Smith-Njigba was the dude. And you just lost DK. So that'll be their 1-2. And I'll be really curious to see the split target share for those guys once the season's over. And Mike Mack at the helm here, seeing how he keeps both those guys happy. Be fascinating to watch.
Not only will he be a number 2, but he also, while Hopkins will be number 3, to your point, but it's also like you also have a quarterback that can produce yards. You also have Derrick Henry. You also have 2 tight ends. And so, like, where is he really? And where are both these guys really in the entire pecking order of the offense, not just in the wide receiver core?
And they're going to be building around Darnold, at least for the time being, at quarterback. And I'm sure who else do they have in their room right now? Maybe they'll draft someone, but they're going with Sam Darnold, and they're going to got to hope that Mike McDonald can get just as much, if not more, out of Darnold as Kevin O'Connell did last year in Minnesota, because he got a big payday because of it.
And one last thing before we totally move on from DeAndre Hopkins. Check this out. When he was signing, you know how they always have these guys sign the wall? They have a room for signings.
Yeah.
The Ravens do. He noticed another signing pretty much almost an exact year before he did.
314. Who was this up here? That was last year this time.
That's Derek.
Ain't that something? Let's go.
Ain't that something? Who's this on 314? It's one of those questions that you ask that you already know the answer to, but you kind of want to point out.
How'd that one work out? How'd that one work out for him?
That one's working out pretty good. Now I'm just waiting for the extension.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Let's get to a couple more super chats before we shift gears to sort of a third topic / quick hits, which is, of course, beginning with Cincinnati. Olu says D-Hop is needed. Do you think we'll draft another in the top 3 rounds? Tylen, Dez, meaning Tez, and a practice squad fighting for the spot. So maybe offensive lineman, defensive back, and linebacker or late tight end draft. They're definitely bringing another wide receiver, you would think, Sarah. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a day 3 pick. Devontae was the 4th round last year, right? So that would have been early day 3.
Yes, early day
Early
3.
day 3.
Yeah. So he's asking the top 3 rounds. I mean, it's always best player available, so you don't know. But if we're talking about needs, you would hope that they would have addressed pass rusher and cornerback and one
Safety.
of the, lines. You could do safety or one of the lines. So, I mean, if the wide receiver is the best player available, but I wouldn't do it purely based off of need.
Yep. Right now, though, the room's looking pretty solidified. You got Zay, Bate, D-Hop, Tylen. Devontae will be fighting for, rounding out that room, and then maybe a rookie. So that's where things stand. And I know Dayton Wade, chat. Dayton Wade is still on the practice squad as well. He'll have an opportunity throughout OTAs.
He'll be out there on the 90-man roster for sure, making his case. Yeah.
For sure. And I know they'll be watching closely. We were watching this one, or actually probably nobody was watching this one because it came in late.
Yeah.
While you were sleeping. I was going to say,
Mm-hmm.
while you were sleeping, look what Cincinnati did, Sarah. They made Jamar Chase the highest paid non-quarterback league-wide, and they brought in, they extended T. Higgins after tagging him initially for a 2nd consecutive season. So here are the numbers up on the screen. It's 161 over 4 for Jamar and 115 over 4 for T. Sarah, all I'll say, they better draft well defensively next month.
You got 2 players that are being paid top 9 wide receiver money, right? This isn't like 2 players at a cheaper position that's in the top 10. This is 2 wide receivers. And obviously they've paid their quarterback. And according to Diana Rossini, they're working to retain Trey Hendrickson. So you've got one of the top paid quarterbacks, and deservingly so. They've got now Jamar Chase, who is the highest paid non-quarterback. So Myles Garrett had that title for like a week.
Yeah.
And then it went from one Ohio team inside the AFC North to another Ohio team inside the AFC North. And then you've got T. Higgins. So those are, and if they end up getting Hendrickson done, you've got 4 guys taking up, I don't know what it is. It's got to be around half the cap.
And if you don't draft well and rebuild this defense, none of it's going to matter. We saw that last year. All these players were on their roster last year, and it was a historic, iconic offensive year just to not play in January.
That's the thing, is like they are the same team. This is before the draft. They are the same team, but more expensive.
Yeah.
You could kind of say the same thing about the Ravens. Almost the same team, but adding DeAndre Hopkins. But the same team that's also more expensive.
Yeah.
But the Ravens were already the more complete roster. And they got into 2 shootouts, and the Ravens won them both. And so this is so here's a couple takeaways from this. Number 1, I don't get to make fun of Mike Brown as super cheap anymore because he paid up. And he did what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to pay your star franchise players that you brought in, you drafted, you're supposed to keep them. He paid them. That's what you're supposed to do. So it's a good move by them. At the same time, from a Ravens perspective, you're like, just 4 dudes with that much put into the cap? It's like, okay, we for sure got to get our corners in here, and we for sure got to get our pass rushers. But we have a better defense, and we can keep up offensively. Very few people can keep up with them offensively. And so from a Ravens point of view, it's like, all right, we got to keep building the CB room. We got to bring in that pass rusher. But I'm not more afraid of Cincinnati than I was last year. They were not a playoff team with these same guys, and now they have less money to build around them. So just like the Ravens, they're going to have to kill it in the draft. They're going to have to kill it in the draft. And I have more confidence in the Ravens killing it in the draft than I do the Cincinnati Bengals, who usually kill it in the draft when they have a high draft pick, but they don't. They're not early in these rounds. So they're going to have to figure it out later in the rounds, just as the Ravens will. And so who's going to draft better?
Twice a season for the foreseeable future, you are seeing Metcalf and Pickens, barring a trade. You're seeing Higgins and Chase, as you've already seen. We know they're familiar with those two, Sarah. The Baltimore secondary. It's been ugly when they've played them in recent years. And then in Cleveland, you got to deal with, obviously it's the lesser of the two that I just named, but they do have Jerry Jeudy, and they do have a really productive tight end in David Njoku, and I would expect them to retool at wide receiver in the draft. So we'll see what they do, and if they go with Cam Ward there at 2 off the top. But yeah, clearly it's playmakers galore in this division.
Oh, no doubt. Absolutely no doubt. Meanwhile,
this is one of them. On the other side of the ball.
This is one of them. And Myles Garrett, this was hilarious because he finally did some interviews, and he was asked about returning to the Browns after saying, I don't believe that they're going to compete for the Super Bowl. That's why I want out. It's not about money. I want to go compete for a championship. I don't want to just keep playing here and then go from here to Canton. And then that $40 million came in, that $40 million per year. And he says, quote, I think the fans will see my heart is in the right place. It's never been about money. It's always been about winning. And in a separate quote, he says, it's going to take everything and whatever it takes, I'm willing to give. Now that part I believe, because he's a worker. He will put in the work. He says, I want to be a winner. I want to bring a championship back to Cleveland. Oh, it's easy to say that stuff in March when you just got paid $40 million per year.
Good luck, Myles. You are literally in the middle of a rebuild, which feels like it's every other year. But I know they're not going to say that, but.
No, in fact, he seems again in March, seems to say that he knows what's going on with the quarterback and what's going to happen there. And that's one of the reasons why he came back. It wasn't about the money, Bobby.
In all seriousness, do you know who the quarterback's going to be? I mean, do you have an idea?
After conversations, I do have an idea.
Okay. Do you like the idea?
I like it enough to be here smiling in front of you because I think we have a good chance of that happening and making the most out of it.
Can you tell us who it is, Myles?
You know I can't do that.
Siciliano, man. I love that guy. I was hanging out with him in Indy. He's so funny.
He's great. He's great. I don't think he knows. I mean, what can they tell him? Like, we're going to use our second overall pick on a quarterback?
Yeah.
Or we're going to try to change the Falcons' mind and have them, let go of Kirk Cousins. So
I'm pretty sure just paid him $10 million. I think there was a roster bonus or something triggered. Maybe it was similar to Mark. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that a $10 million roster bonus or something along that within his contract just was triggered. So you're not getting that back if you're Atlanta. So Cleveland would have to make it awfully enticing.
Yes, they do.
They've done it before, Sarah.
Whatever. He keeps saying it's not about the money, but I don't know. And by the way, Cease is doing it again. Speaking of $40 million per year, Marlon Humphrey is cracking me up on Twitter again. He says when Kyle Hamilton gets that $40 million per year, he's going to be responsible for covering his man and my man.
Anything to get the people going online. That's what Marlon does best.
Oh man, I love it. I'm here for it all day long.
He and Kyle are tight. And guess what? Usually Kyle already has multiple assignments out there as it is. So I'm sure he'll be like, yeah, I was already doing that, Marlon.
I got you, bro.
I was already a step ahead of you.
Yeah, exactly.
I do that every year, bro. What do you think I did last year for him? I played every single position defensively.
Although, can we talk about like $40 million per year? Really? That's not going to go that high, right?
Man,
you can't.
I don't.
At this, well, and again, he plays more than safety, obviously, but that's not this is not the wide receiver position. This isn't a pass rusher position.
No.
But he's going to get paid handsomely.
Seen crazier things with this market, but
so that will be the question to Marlo. If he gets paid like in the 30s, like are you still going to cover your own man? Like where's the cutoff?
maybe Marlon's looking into the future. I don't think he'll still be playing, but when Kyle's obviously significantly younger, but when he's up for his second big deal, maybe it'll be upwards of 40 at that point, 5 years from now. But what else we got here? Of course, more Marlon. What a shock. More Marlon, and he's got to take his shots here at his former defensive teammate, Malik Harrison, who, Sarah, funny how that goes, right? PQ signs to Pittsburgh a year ago. Malik does this month, and it's as if it never happened. Now, I think there's a reason why. PQ's obviously a little bit more outspoken. PQ was a first rounder.
Yeah.
PQ, very different personality than Malik Harrison, but here he is going pen to paper, and Marlon made sure to take aim. He said, it's 31 other teams, and you pick the yellow team, at Malik's Twitter account handle, and says, honestly, screw you.
The way you said it.
In my mind, that's how it's supposed to be written, but we all know Marlon was in his deep, high voice, high-pitched voice in playful mode.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's like what you said with Lamar kind of calling out Charlie Kolar, right? Like you only say that stuff if you're confident that you've got a good relationship. Same thing here. Honestly, screw you.
Oh, congrats to
Well,
Malik.
look at this. There's a lot of signings the Steelers have been doing.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Malik there to the left, Darius Slay, DK Metcalf, and I'm forgetting these two guys' names, but there's a nickel corner in here, and let me see if I got it somewhere. Anyway, five veteran moves, and to me, this is so un-Pittsburgh-like.
Yeah,
and it's un-Pittsburgh-like because when you keep losing during the season, you win in free agency and you have to get a little bit more desperate. And that's what they're doing. People who win in March usually are not winning in January.
Elsewhere, how about this? Another opportunity for me to pronounce Kyle's last name correctly.
Well, you already killed it last time you tried it, so.
Let's see if I can do it again. 9-time Pro Bowl fullback Kyle Juszczyk is returning to the 49ers. 2-year, $8 million deal. Sarah, they leveraged Pittsburgh here a little bit, seemed, last week. He and his wife, Kristen, made a visit. I saw on their Instagram pages that they were visiting the Steelers.
Yep.
And then he goes back to San Francisco. So teams that still value the fullback position, Baltimore and San Francisco, retain their guys who were both pending free agents or were free agents. They hit free agency, as Pat Ricard did as well, but both of them end up with their respective teams.
So he's getting $4 million per year. Patrick Ricard signed a 1-year deal where he's getting the cash of $2.8 million.
Yeah.
But his cap hit, because of the way you can sign guys who have been on the team for 4 years, not all of the cash has to go on the cap. So his cap hit will be 1.5.
Yeah.
But 2.8 for Ricard and $4 million per year for Juszczyk. I feel like Ravens are getting a pretty good deal.
Oh, for sure.
These guys don't want to leave Baltimore, and it says something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Ricard's championship chasing. And this dude, a lot of folks wanted him in Baltimore. That's not going to happen. Eagles guard Mekhi Becton, he's a former first rounder, has signed with the LA Chargers, so he's going to join their offensive line. Big guard. This is a massive human being, but he goes to LA.
He's a Daniel Fa'alele type story because he used to be a tackle, moved inside, and then he had a great season last year. So, can he keep it up? But a lot of people wanted this. I don't blame them. Again, from I just feel like we're all kind of in denial. I'm coming out of denial. I certainly was in denial for 75% of the season of Daniel Fa'alele. But their version of Mekhi Becton is Daniel Fa'alele. And the Ravens are going to stick with that. They stuck with it all last year. They stuck with it when he was not performing well early in the season. He certainly got better. I think Ken McCusick on his grade said he had his 4 best games, the last 4. And so they weren't going to go get Mekhi Becton when they believe that Daniel Fa'alele is him in a Ravens uniform.
I tell you what, too, kind of a cool comeback story. You know, Mekhi was a first rounder with the Jets, and he was widely regarded departing New York as a total bust. Look at him now. I mean, he was a coveted free agent this season, just won a Super Bowl, as we alluded to here in Philadelphia, and now he's going to the Chargers to block for Justin Herbert. So congrats to him, resurrected his career. Now, speaking of that, you know, big numbers and defensive back market, in this case, the cornerback market, it has officially been reset. Derek Stingley Jr. in Houston has agreed to terms on a 3-year, $90 million deal. That's $30 annually, of course. And this dude, David Mulugeta, man, he's just churning out deals. He's got a lot of big-time players. $89 million is guaranteed. And Sarah, as we discussed last week, I can't remember the corner off the top of my head, but we were like, Sauce Gardner's going to be watching that. And I believe it was J.C. Horn, right, in Carolina, who we were talking about. But Sauce is going to be watching this one too, and this probably means a lot for him because I assume when he's up, he'll be resetting it himself.
It's a lot of money. Good for him. And this is my point where I was saying before, like, is Kyle Hamilton really going to get $40 million per year? Because Stingley, at cornerback, is getting $30 million per year, and that's the highest paid ever. So, yeah.
And hey, if you're Nate Wiggins, you're looking at this list right here.
Ooh, Nate Wiggins.
After a pretty solid first year of production, and you're thinking, okay, great, this is something to chase after. It's really early on, but this is something to chase after and have lofty aspirations. Here is the largest annual salaries among corners. Like we mentioned, Stingley and JC here just within the last week or so are at the top. Jalen Ramsey, top 3. Pat Surtain out there in Denver. Jair Alexander in Green Bay. A.J. Terrell and Denzel Ward round out your top 7 there. So that is a current look at the top 7 right now, just in terms of average annual value. And you brought this one in on a new Bills defensive tackle, who of course was, well, actually a couple different players that just joined the Bills.
Yeah, this is crazy. The Bills GM, Brandon Beane, had told reporters that their new signees, do you got the names better than me?
I do.
I go for it. I'll let you do
at
it.
least one of the two. Larry Ogunjobi, he was, of course, last with Pittsburgh. Not sure, is it Hogt? Michael Hogt? Not sure on that one, but they both tested positive. And right after this, was it after the signings?
After the signings.
Woo.
And they're both going to miss 6 games this season. And so some people had made the point that it's like, if you're going to suspend people for PEDs, shouldn't you announce that before free agency?
Oh man, it's Hoyt, by the way, Michael Hoyt. That's a blow.
Yeah. Could you imagine, like, again, the Ravens haven't signed too many outside guys, but right after they sign Hopkins, it's like, oh, by the way, he's going to be suspended for 6 games. And it's
Which,
like,
by the way, he has been in the past. I can't remember what it was. He has faced a suspension in his career. So, but that's, I mean, it's brutal. Oh, and Ogunjobi's been playing some good ball too in recent years. So, I mean, 6 games, it's a nice chunk of the season.
Yeah.
It's a third of the
yeah,
season.
it is. Yeah, it is.
More than a third of the season. Yeah.
Those guys are probably pretty happy that the league didn't announce it. They're like, well, I got my money.
Right.
Before that came out.
Right.
That's crazy for the Bills. Meanwhile, just some draft tweets here, Bobby. You had brought up this one from Jordan Reed.
I did.
Go ahead.
I had a chance to catch up with him in Indy. We're trying to effort him on the show. He's sort of the new McShay for ESPN, draft analyst. And just some notes here, because, you know, you and I are going to really start to turn a page here pretty soon now that free agency is starting to wrap up. And that hopefully will include bringing Emery back on the show. I know he wants to.
For sure.
But Jordan says draft wide receivers, tackles, and edge rushers early, because good ones that are not worth it, that are worth it, hardly ever hit the open free agent market, which is kind of case in point here over the last couple of weeks that we've watched.
Well, not only that, that's just true in general. Like,
Yeah.
doesn't matter what drafts it is. Like,
Yeah.
top guys are not hitting the market. Like
Yep.
you have to, Myles Garrett never hit the market.
Nope.
Like, they weren't going to let it happen. Trey Hendrickson may never hit the market. I mean, we just talked about Diana Rossini saying that they're working on trying to, and he's 30, like he's not even in his prime, and he may not hit the market, although he was allowed to go and get, talk to people about trades. But it's like these people are always like, you know, the Ravens need to be more aggressive, this and that, and go and get them. And it's just like, but 95% of these guys are never available. So that's true because of who's out there this year with free agency, but it's true every single year. And then Daniel Jeremiah, a little bit more into the draft, says mock drafts are always an exercise in futility, although he's pretty good at it. He says, but this year is more challenging than ever before. It's going to make the real draft a fun watch because we don't have any idea how these teams are going to stack so many similar players. And we keep hearing that, right? Like there's not a bunch of elite players, but there's so many solid guys through the first like 4 rounds, you know, that they're just like not a lot separates them. So good. I'm here for surprises on draft night. It'll be fun.
I'm fired up to start planning our show. I know that. You know we're going to have a big time show for you guys coming up on opening night, Thursday the 24th, if I'm not mistaken. A couple of birthday boys from the weekend, Ozzie Newsome and Kyle Hamilton. Ozzie turned 69 yesterday.
Okay.
Kyle, just a little south, 24.
Wow.
24 years old. He is a one-time first-team All-Pro, one-time second-team All-Pro, and a 2-time Pro Bowler through just 3 years? Yeah, last year was 3 years.
Yeah.
So congratulations. Yeah, I mean, just what a
he just turned 24, is that what you said?
Yeah, just a ridiculous start to his career.
Some
and not
guys,
a bad guy to share a birthday with, by the way.
No. Legendary birthday.
The calves are popping off the page. Is that a boy, Oz?
I forgot what I was going to say. Something about Kyle, but I forgot.
Let's get to some more super chats before we close. Dreams hits us with Pittsburgh and Cleveland, no quarterback. Cincinnati, no defense. The North is ours. And Femi, former Super Bowl winning Raven, friend of the show. What's up, Fem? Happy Patty's Day to you, brother. He thinks he's got a good feel here for maybe what Myles Garrett's alluding to there. I think this is when that comment came in. And he says Cleveland's banking on Russ or Shedeur Sanders. Does that mean that you think Cam's going 1 overall to Tennessee? Is that what you think? Just curious.
Because I do kind of like, I've heard some draft analysts saying that Cam would fit better in the AFC North. But I don't know. And also, yeah, Russ. Like, it's so funny how like the quarterback market has died because everybody keeps waiting on Aaron Rodgers. So like, is Russ, if the Steelers don't get Aaron Rodgers, if he goes to either Minnesota or the Giants, like, will Russ go back to the Steelers? And Deion Sanders has alluded to the fact that there's some teams he won't let his son go to. Is Cleveland one of those teams? Like, if I were a parent and I had some sort of power, I wouldn't want him to go to Cleveland.
Can't imagine him coaching there either.
Yeah.
There's a big belief that he's going to be, part of this is like he wants to go to the NFL at some point to coach Shedeur, just as he did in college. But imagine him. Hey, he went to Jackson State. Isn't that in Mississippi to go coach? I think it's in Mississippi.
Anyway, something like that.
Appreciate you, fam. Let's get to some patrons here. Ross Tromans and Joseph Hester. We appreciate you guys for being with us on this Monday. Thank you for the support that you give us through Patreon, becoming integral members of our community. This is your monthly shout out. So Ross, Joseph, thanks, guys. If you're interested in doing the same, visit patreon.com/RavensVault podcast to learn more about what we offer. And of course, channel membership is now a thing as well. We rolled it out a couple weeks ago. We've already got 60 plus members strong. Great way to get involved in the channel. Great way to channel. Great way to get involved. And obviously you get some things in return as well, as you've probably seen. So just go press that join button and check out what we have going on for you. Looks like we got another super chat from Rave, who's just been rolling.
Keep putting on the credit card, right?
And he says, "Hey, yo, Bobby, first it's Derrick Henry, sexy big muscles. Now it's Ozzie Newsome popping caps. Hey, yo, man of fish, Bobby Diddy. Rave, you're unbelievable."
Has Rave ever been, you know how you bring in colors on your personal show? Has
Yeah.
Rave ever called in?
Rave, you got to help me out here, Rave. I don't think you have. But, yeah, I don't know. You know what I was thinking the other day? It'd be fun at some point this offseason when it's really slow to do a literal call-in only content day on the Vault. Maybe make it a Friday. Maybe make it something that is in the dead zone, right?
Definitely the
could be
dead
months from
zone.
now. It's going to be on the other end of the draft, obviously. But I
Yeah.
think, and he says you haven't. Right? We're saying he. I don't even know. Are you male or female, Rave? I don't know.
I think he's male.
But it'd be a lot. It'd be a lot of fun to do that if you'd be open to it down the line. So maybe something.
No, yeah, that'd be cool. Be in like that dead period when we're like waiting for training camp to happen. Like coaches are out of the building.
Yeah.
Everybody's on their last vacation. That'd be like a fun call-in only show. Like it'd be like a mailbag type thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And we could do it off of Super Chats too.
It'd be fun.
Yeah.
Massey, for you.
Cooper trade reaction made me appreciate that fans don't have the final decisions on rosters. Most wanted Lamar copy or
Lamar copy.
Oh, wanted a Lamar copy or say he costs too much. There is no Lamar copy, by the way. But I hear you, Massey. Cooper is a good passer. He's a good move. Ravens have many weapons.
Pretty realistic way of level-headed way of looking at it. Everybody wants to meet Tilly. she's appearing over my left shoulder. She's just posted up on this futon type thing where I'm staying here in Orlando. It's been awesome to have her on the road with me. She's just great.
Bobby, did you salvage your weekend?
Yeah. For those of you who missed the Friday show, I had a tentative date scheduled in St. Pete with a girl that I met on Bumble, and we FaceTimed a bunch. By the way, we got a hilarious email over the weekend. Tell me you read it.
Oh my gosh, I read half of it, but I really want to finish it. Can I just summarize it real quick?
Well, you know
Did
what
you
I
read
think
the
we
whole
should
thing?
do? You know what I was thinking about?
What?
Just off the top of my head here, and we can talk about it or either scrap it. So this guy named Dave wrote us via email, literally
from Australia,
a mountain. And I think he's in dating. Like he's in.
No, he said he's like a professional. What did he call himself? He's a professional like dating coach.
Okay.
Dating relationship coach, something
gotcha.
like that.
Sarah, what I would love to do is get permission from him to pull it up on the screen.
Oh, for sure.
And read it and have a little like post quick hit segment about it this week. What do you think?
Sure. He says, I'm a professional dating and relationship coach. Can I just give them the main part?
Sure.
This cracked me up. The subject line is Bobby's dating woes. And this is a good 10 to 15 paragraph email. And he basically said, he's trying to give you props. He's building you up. You're a great catch, this and that. This shouldn't be a problem for you. He's like, if I could just sum up in 2 words of why things aren't working out, is he said in all caps, unforced errors.
Look, the play on words is part of the reason why I want to read this and bring it up on the screen, because he really brings it to football terms. He goes back and forth. It was super kind of him to write.
Yeah.
And so Dave, we know that and he was making references that lead you to believe that he's a daily listener, daily subscriber. So Dave, if you hear this, please email us back, just giving us a thumbs up or thumbs down if we could potentially make it into a little fun segment at some point this week, because I would love to read it and we'll have a fun conversation.
Because at the end he said, I'd love to schedule a call and chat with you, totally free. My gift to you. Might as well do that live.
Unbelievable. Might as well do that too, Dave. Dave, I'll throw it out there. If you are willing to bring this on the screen, we have a good little back and forth about it. Let's do it. My shower thought the other day, and I'm going to answer your question after this about salvaging my weekend. My shower thought was making a new playlist either on this channel or on my channel and just straight up saying Bobby After Dark.
Yep,
like if you guys are that interested in it and I'm happy to continue oversharing, then so be it. So maybe that's coming.
I was telling my husband about it because I was chatting with him yesterday afternoon, uh, when that email came in. And I just start laughing out of nowhere, and he's like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh." So I told him about your issues last week. And he was like, "You know what?" He's like, "There's no reason why you guys shouldn't be able to expand. Like, if people are watching, because I told him how you did that one video with Madison, and you're like, 'Did I just find my future wife?' And wasn't it one of like a really well trafficked show of
10,
yours?
10 plus.
10,000 plus just for that."
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not against having like obviously football, but expand and make this like a Baltimore Bobby dating show where we have an off season and we legit are trying to find you a wife. Do you know what I mean? Like legit and chronicling it. I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
If people want to consume it, I'm happy to make that into the pull out process that we do on the back end to edit it. So we'll be talking about that in the coming days. But yeah, salvage the weekend. This date that never was on Friday night is in the past. Obviously, I opened up about it Friday because Friday morning, again, the morning of the day of our scheduled date later that night, she asked to reschedule for Sunday. And, I definitely politely went back, I'd say.
I
I was
don't
like,
know if it was polite.
you don't think so?
I think that was the most frustrated I've seen you, and you weren't believing what she was telling you, and you were kind of calling that out.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, maybe I
I
went a
think
little bit harder.
that's where like I think the unforced errors he's talking about kind of come in a little bit.
Well, I'll be curious to see what kind of words he attaches to the unforced errors, Dave,
Yes.
our resident dating coach and my future dating coach, apparently. But yeah, so ended up just hanging out with my cousins, doing a lake night here on the Conway chain, which is right around the corner. Orlando's known for its lakes. Those of you who haven't spent time here, because it's landlocked, obviously. So, you're not getting really any beach time. And then I went over to St. Pete for the day on Saturday, or for Saturday night, and we did a little boat rental with a bunch of my cousin's friends. Really nothing to really report on. It was a good solid weekend. And now this will be the last one in Orlando, and I'll be driving back to Maryland this weekend. Orioles opening day is coming up. We got a lot of projects coming up. I'll be in Columbus in the next couple of weeks, so really looking forward to that. What about you guys? Did you have a good weekend?
We did have a good weekend. It was raining a lot here, so a lot of the soccer practices got canceled. So we went to an indoor swimming pool. And what was nice yesterday is our kids all randomly just had invites by their friends to go and hang out or play or whatever. So Trevor and I were like home alone for like a good 3 hours in the middle of a Sunday. That's why I told you I was sitting chatting with him when that email came in. And I was like, when's the last time we just sat here and chatted for hours without being interrupted by one of our wonderful 4 children? We love them, but it was nice. And so like yesterday afternoon was definitely my highlight, where we could just sit and chat and catch up. So that was a lot of fun.
I was gonna say that's unheard
Yeah.
of. Unheard of in your household. So
Yeah.
good. I'm glad you got that in. I can't wait to see you. Be out there for the inaugural Vault Summit the first week of April. That will include a fitness day that Sarah and I will be probably making a segment on a Friday morning. It'll be a Friday morning fitness class. First Friday in April.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
No cameras in the. Just to be clear, no cameras in the fitness
I don't know. You're
class.
talking about a whole segment. I don't know about all of that.
Well,
Let's chat about that.
I can totally tell. No, I'm talking about how I fared. If you don't want to talk, how I fared in your fitness class with all your crew.
Right. I got you.
I love it.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Well, Ronnie Stanley's, of course, press conference is coming up here at 2. It's a Zoom call, so we'll have our thoughts on that, any relevant takeaways coming up tomorrow. And we appreciate you guys for being here. If you want to get involved in the channel and become a channel member, you can click on that link that's included in the show notes. Do us a favor on the way out. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, all those super simple things, but they really go a long way in terms of our growth. And we're coming up on 24,000 subscriptions. So hopefully we can hit that at some point. Draft season's right around the corner. Partner, appreciate you. Great start to the week. Thanks to all of you. Over 3,000 concurrents, Tila, on our way out. For Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off. More dating talk to come, potentially a new playlist. You never know. That'll be discussed at the Vault Summit. Please send
There
us
we
your
go.
agendas for what our priorities should be during our inaugural Vault Summit, where I will be in Columbus, and Sarah and I are going to be in person doing a Friday show, first Friday in April, and having some cool, good bonding family time. That's what's coming up. So, as always, we appreciate you guys, and thanks for spending some time with us here inside the Vault on this Patty's Day. Enjoy yourselves. Behave out there. We'll catch up with you in under 23 hours from right now. Talk soon.